Hello there, and welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast Andor season two preseason coverage rolling on this week. We gave you the season one review last week to sort of refresh our memory where we were at the end of season one. Now we're going to some of our character study episodes. Today we're starting with Cassian 101. We're going to the full story of Cassian Andor. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. With me, as always, the man whose voice you hear in the narration every single week, Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Excited for Andor season two. We're here to give you as much information as possible on top of the other stuff we've already recorded, but I'm very excited to talk about Cassian 101 here.
Yeah. Also here with us today, the new head of Primor Security, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. Andor coverage has began. It's Andor season from now until roughly Memorial Day. Very exciting. Good way to spend our spring. Um, Good way to start too with the title character.
Yep, for sure. And people want to subscribe to us on the Sky Guys. They can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys here podcast platform. Follow us there here. And we got a fun preseason planned here, Pete. So you want to make sure they're with us here because before you know it, Andor's going to be here. You don't want to miss all the fun stuff.
Yeah, it's just around the bend here. Not too close, but not too far away either. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Sky Guys Podcast there on YouTube to make sure you're getting the season two reviews, and episode reviews there as well because they'll be exclusively there. So make sure you're subscribed. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. So help us out and help yourself out by getting the content quicker.
Yep. And Nick, if you want to follow social media, how can I do that?
Follow at Sky Guys Podcast on pretty much everywhere. And you can email the pod at skyguyspod@gmail.com. And isn't it like silly how some of them call it follow and some call it subscription? Because then people start thinking that subscription means money, because typically it does. Why
Yep.
did YouTube do that?
I don't know. It's very, I think it's for the creators want to monetize, I would guess.
Because everyone else does a follow button and then a subscribe would cost money. YouTube, if you want to follow, you just hit subscribe.
Yes.
Don't like that. They should change that.
Yeah, and let's go to our social media comment of the week. This is from the Andor trailer reaction video. This is from on our TikTok. This is from Mahalina. We talked about the Mon Mothma scene in the trailer, and she said that's probably her daughter's wedding, which I said to you in the chat, and I said great point. I thought it was after you recorded, it was so annoying I forgot it in the pod. So
Yeah, it definitely is.
it's definitely her wedding. It makes daughters.
Yeah, it could combine the ideas. I think I had mentioned the massacre.
Yeah,
Like, who's to say that the massacre doesn't happen at the wedding? That is entirely possible.
because it's at the same time at the wedding.
It could have been like, roughly. I know there's a protest going on. That's what leads to the massacre, but they could combine those elements into one, possibly. But yeah, this is for sure the wedding.
Yeah, Pete, I'm mad at myself. I missed this because I thought of it literally 10 minutes after the pod wrap. I'm like, damn it, I missed this.
Am I forgetting? Was she engaged or something in
Her
season
daughter,
one?
she set up an arranged wedding for her daughter
Oh,
with I think
that's right.
with the son of the gang leader she needs the money from.
That's right. That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, you can even look in the background of this picture. Everyone's like the way they're dancing. It's clearly a wedding.
Yeah. That's a great take. That I didn't even remember that.
Yeah. That's how we're gonna do these character pods next few weeks. We're gonna sort of remember all these things to get ourselves ready for season two.
Yeah, I did some research today, yesterday, and I'm ready already. So the more discussing we do, it's only going to make me more ready.
Yeah, we did some more discussion to do, including there was a big news that dropped while we were putting out the re-release here about Kathleen Kennedy. Nick, I think we gotta get into that.
So there was a piece of news that came out originally that said that Kathleen Kennedy was retiring.
Yes.
And basically, I guess right away she did an interview with Deadline. It seems like days later after that news came out. Is that true? The timing on that?
Yeah, it's like basically 2, 3 days after.
About 2 days later, then she did an interview with Deadline and refuted the claim that she's going to step down at the end of 2025. She did say, though, that she is planning a succession or is discussing a succession plan for her role, but is going to remain involved with movie production and final decision and all that. So it does seem to me like she probably still is retiring because based on the fact that she has a succession plan, but it's not as clear as like she's done at the end of the year. It seems like she's planning her way out, but it's not happening yet.
Yeah, to me it sort of reads, Pete, like I'm planning to, like step back and kind of just worry about movies instead of running the whole company. But like, she doesn't want like whoever Puck is or got to get the scoop on it. Like, she wants to be on her own terms.
That's fair. I mean, I think with all the speculation we get in general, it's very easy for someone to run with the story and everyone believe it. So, um, being able to do it on our own terms and, not having any sort of timeline there is probably best for the person. I'm sure we were all very excited to see that, Star Wars fans, that Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau may be a replacement. So, um, yeah. So it makes sense.
Yep, and I found the article she with Deadline very interesting because like it's the first time she really talked publicly about projects since I think Celebration 23. So like she did give us some updates too.
She did. She said she's producing Sean Levy's Star Wars film, which is now supposed to be the next one after Mandalorian and Grogu, which is a standalone story that takes place 60 years after the Rise of Skywalker. This is the same one that the rumor is that Ryan Gosling would be in.
Yep,
And
that's the one.
yeah, and they're saying now this is the next one after Mandalorian and Grogu, which if you remember all this time, that was the Rey movie.
Yes.
So that is no longer next on the slate after the Mandalorian movie. So that is the big development there.
Yep.
Simon Kinberg's trilogy, envisioned to push the franchise into the future, is also set up to the Rise of Skywalker. This one seems ridiculous to me. There's no way this is happening.
Yeah, I know they hired him. They made a big that was leaked all over the place. They hired him, and now he's working on scripts allegedly.
I like, I say all the time that these things aren't happening. You know that, but I especially don't believe it when a guy's hired for a trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, make one, like Sean Levy movie. I actually am starting to believe it a little bit.
Yeah.
This one, not at all. Anyway, James Mangold's still working on the script for Dawn of the Jedi, but it was delayed due to his role producing a Bob Dylan Oscar nominee. So this is another one that I think is entering development hell. The James Mangold Dawn of the Jedi movie.
Yeah.
But this is a couple of years now where we're still working on scripts. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think we announce movies with a target release date or a target frame, a range of release dates until we're done with the script. And I feel like that's not what's going on here, or at least halfway done with the script. It's not what's going on here.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of these movies, like this James Mangold one, like the Simon Kinberg one, where it's like, yeah, I'll work on a script or something. Yeah, pencil me in, and they're just like, it's happening. Like,
Yeah.
slow down.
Yeah, I feel like he gets into that a little further down. We continue more discussion of the article.
The next one is that they would love to work with Taika Waititi on a movie, but scheduling him is hard since he is involved on other projects. That is a nice way to say no.
Yeah. And
Nice way to say we tried, it didn't work out, or we didn't try, we don't want to try.
well, I think I disagree on that one. I think she wants to track. I know, like she brought it up unprompted, basically in the interview where they said anything else you want to tell. I was like, oh yeah, like I read Taika's first act and I loved it, but he's hard to pin him down. He's so busy. I think she
You
wants it. I don't
don't,
think he's committed.
you don't think it's a nice way to say no thank you after it seems like when they brought him in for the role, if you will. He
Yeah.
was high on top of the world. Thor Ragnarok was somewhat new, and now all of a sudden it's years later. The newest one, the newest Thor, that is. And people were like, not so good anymore. He's kind of on a downward spiral. 8 years ago, he was the man.
Yeah.
Now it's. So maybe that has something to do with it, and it's a way to get out. But let's go into the last topic here, which she indicated that she believed three or four of Star Wars development type projects would turn into something right now as safe projection. Noted that part of their issue is securing time with talent who are very busy and would need to lock in 2 to 3 years minimum commitment to focus attention on a Star Wars project.
Yeah, which I think this is the issue where you're having a lot of these things that get announced and say, oh, like we want to do this movie or we want to do this show. And then like it doesn't happen because, like James Mangold says, I'm committed to do a Bob Dylan biopic, or like Taika says, I'm making this movie. So like they seem to want exclusivity because they're like, we're only working on us. And it's hard to get these big talents to do that.
Completely. There's one guy I can think of, though, who never really seemed to have that issue.
Yeah.
George Lucas.
Yeah, well, George Lucas's thing, like he did a little Raiders of the Lost Ark, but
Oh,
like,
of course, he did some Indiana Jones as well, but when he was making a Star Wars movie, that was his life.
yes,
And I understand this from both sides. I get annoyed at it when I see it, like, oh man, if we just get a good Star Wars movie out here, get some good people in here. But at the same time, I get it. You want me and you and Pete, we sit here and say, let's get us a good actor in a Star Wars movie. I'm just throwing a name out there. Denzel Washington, great actor, right?
yep,
Denzel has other things going on. He can't just drop everything to do Star Wars. A great director, let's say Christopher Nolan.
yeah.
He's making other movies. He's not just going to say, no, I'm doing Star Wars. He's going to continue to do what made him who he is today. He can't just shelve everything for Star Wars.
Yeah, Pete, any thoughts?
I mean, not really. I agree. I mean, it's a tough sell to get big names, like Nick said, because of just their schedule. I mean, I feel like we're in a time of recency bias when it comes to these actors. I mean, perfect example is Pedro Pascal. He's in everything, everything. And I feel like either these actors become a flash in the pan or they're busy for a really long time because they're so good and it's hard to schedule them in. And if you do schedule them in, are they doing something in the middle of that? Same thing with directors. So I think it's very difficult to be able to do this. And when they are able to secure someone, how much do you have them for that project?
Yeah, that's the challenge I think going forward here is especially when they have all these ideas, like it's really just like locking down the time commitment to like, okay, this is our number one priority, James Mangold or Taika or whoever, like or like actor, like and Pete mentioned it well, Nick, the Pedro Pascal problem they ran into, like where like he's gotten much bigger since he was showing up in Mandalorian. Now he's no longer even going in the suit anymore. He's just doing VO somewhere and sending it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
The
right.
last piece of news unrelated to the Kent to Kathleen Kennedy part is Star Wars is re-releasing Revenge of the Sith for the 20th anniversary. That'll come out on April 25th in select theaters. Need to make sure it's a theater near me because I really plan to attend this one. And screenings will be available in multiple formats, including 4DX for the first time. So if you're looking for weekend plans, the weekend after Easter, you just found them.
Yeah, and Pete, I guess we missed the Attack of the Clones re-release.
They had it. I feel like we talked about it.
We did Phantom Menace last year.
Yeah, they skipped. They skipped. They also did Phantom Menace in like 2015 in 3D, right?
I feel
Yeah,
like
the 3D thing was its own thing. I know they were going to do it for the others too. Well, they kind of scrapped it once Disney bought the franchise. So
Yeah, right. And then yeah, I mean they just skipped over three, but here we are, or skipped over
yeah.
two, sorry. Here
Yeah,
we
you're
are
right. They did
with
skip
three.
it. There's no plans to re-release it.
So they re-released in 3D in 2010 for the Phantom Menace, that is.
yeah,
Then they of course did scrapped it like you said. And it was re-released on May of last year.
yeah. And I went and saw it in theaters last year.
So they went right over right for End of the Sith, and now it ends up lining up with the 20th anniversary. So and I'd like to go. What's 4DX?
I think it's like very. I think it's sort of like the. I think it's sort of like a very fancy form, like projection format.
No,
I've seen.
I think 40X, like the seats move, like it's almost like you're at Universal. Not as good, obviously, but like the seats move, they rumble. Like there's a element that's actually affecting you, that fourth dimension. Um, so correct. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's what it is.
I
Yeah,
believe you're right. I had to look it up. Now
yeah.
I've
It's
seen
yeah. It's described
RX. Is that one of them?
as which is what's described.
RPX.
RPX. That was phenomenal. I don't know
That's
what.
I
I
think
don't know what I
sound.
was watching, but it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's sound quality and visual quality. It's like the specific type. I think it's a Regal thing only, RPX. I don't know if that's
I
everywhere.
started in New Rochelle, New York.
That's a Regal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah, 40X is widely considered to be the biggest innovation in cinematic technology to date with motion-enabled chairs, environmental simulation controls, and more. It's made up for a lava at you when you're on Mustafar.
It's like when you're in the Bugs Life tree in Disney World.
Yep.
Same idea.
Yes.
Because I don't do that because I don't like that.
hate that ride.
Yeah.
So I will not be seeing it in 4DX.
You don't want to risk them throwing lava at you for revenge.
Stuff, especially like when they do. I remember as a kid, I used to see. I think it was Honey I Shrunk the Audience, and they
Yeah.
had the mice run on the ground, and I hated that as a kid. I wouldn't go on the ride.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't like that.
All right, so that for the news department here.
That is it. Let's talk Cassian.
Yeah, we're gonna do Cassian 101 today. Is our first of our three character study podcasts. We're going to Cassian's storyline. We're gonna go through. I'm gonna solve quickly the arcs, and we're gonna discuss sort of what happened he does in each of them and what we can take away. So I'll just give a quick summation here because you have plenty of time if you want to go back and rewatch the show before the season comes out. So I'll just mention here we'll go arc by arc here, Pete. So I think that's probably the best way to do it. Sort of kind of quick stuff what happens, discuss it, then we'll move on to the next arc.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so we'll start with our premiere arc, which we got all in one shot with all three episodes. Cassian ends up going to Morlano 1 to work for his sister. He runs into two Pre-Mor guards and accidentally kills one in a bar fight, murders the other to cover it up. Goes home to hide on Ferrex. He meets and we meet as the audience his adoptive mom Marva, the droid B2 Emo, his buddy Brasso, one time another Bix, who he wants to sell a piece of material technology in the black market to one of her contacts. That turned out to be Luthen. He meets a Cassian, who at this point is a fugitive being hunted by Pre-Mor because Bix's boyfriend Tim at 2M's is jealous and rats him out. And then they end up having to flee in a hurry. He gets recruited to join a rebel mission on Aldani. This is also a period we get some flashbacks to Cassian's childhood where he and a bunch of children are on an unnamed jungle planet that's in Rise of the Clone Wars. He gets rescued from a separatist ship by Marva and her husband Clem, and his sister gets left behind on the planet where all the adults seemingly died. So that's the quick summation on Arc 1 for Cassian. So, Nick,
I'm
anything?
pretty sure the planet is Canary.
That's the actual name. So what do you think, Nick? What do you want to go with this one?
So what I want to say is just I know we're supposed to be focusing on Cassian for this specific episode, but I want to talk about the show and the release model as a whole. And this arc, if you remember, I know you remember clearly because you mentioned it already. I know Pete remembers, but for the audience, if you didn't remember, this was released as episode one, two, and three simultaneously.
Yep.
And that is similar to what we're getting this season with these arcs coming in three episode bunches. And I gotta say, it worked really well.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for the release model. But when to get more specific into Cassian's character, we don't learn much about him that we didn't already know here. I mean, of course, we learn where he's from. We learn he has a mother and a girlfriend. But that I don't mean about it. I don't mean about his personal life. I mean about his character, in that he was a mercenary. He seemed like kind of a mercenary in Rogue One anyway. We didn't really learn much here. We just learned that, I guess, how he originally got introduced to the rebellion. That's really about it.
Yeah, I think Pete, the thing I took away from the first Cassian arc is sort of like that, when the whole point of season one is he's very far away from being committed to the rebel cause, where he's sort of out on his own. His personal mission is I'm trying to find where my sister went. I've been looking for her for years, apparently, can't find her. And then he sort of accidentally gets involved in a situation where he has to kill somebody, and then he's on the run for a lot of the season where he's trying, figure out how do I get away from this and not get hauled in by the Empire for murder. And then this sort of sets him on the path where he's going the rest of the season.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a great setup arc. It's, not the fastest pace. I mean, the season itself is not the fastest pace, which I'm fine with, and we've discussed it on our recap of the season of Andor, season one back in 2022. But I think that this sets the character up very well. I think we have seen a little bit of Cassian Andor in Rogue One. We kind of knew his background. We can kind of tell, the typical kind of Star Wars outcast, join rebellion kind of character. But at least we get a little bit more, and we get to see it. So I think it sets up the arc. Sets up the season very well, and Cassian's story very well.
Yeah, and we get the important connection tissue here of Cassian and Luthen, the relationship that does define him this season. Sort of at one point he's lurking for Luthen, then Luthen's hunting him down because he thinks he screwed him over on the Aldani job, and then at the end he comes back together. Says, okay, I'm on your side.
Yeah, very Bad Batch-esque.
Yeah,
a little bit. Not the same, but you know what I'm getting.
Much better.
Do some missions for me to gain my trust. Oh, I don't trust you anymore, and then gain your trust again. It's I like to call it cookie cutter when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah, and Nick, I'm glad. I also wanted to bring attention to the fact we get the flashbacks for Cassian here. It feels like something that I feel like if we had the 12 episode season 2, 3, 4, 5, I think we might have gotten more on this, but I think it's something we're not going to really touch on again. The flashback. I think we gotten what we need out of it.
I agree. We got what we got. What we got out of it mostly was giving him a reason. Well, why does he care so much about his sister? What happened?
Yeah.
And there you go. You see when they were separated.
Yeah, and you're basically the assumption we're basically letting him believe in. And Marva kind of tells him the later he's like, "Oh, she's dead. Like, stop looking for her. You're
Yeah.
wasting your time."
The rumor is that everyone in that in the Canary there was killed.
Yeah,
He's the only one left. So
yeah. He is the only one left here, and I do think it's interesting also, Pete, that this arc, like, we get so many of like the side characters that we meet on Ferrex in season one, whether it's his mom, Brasso, B2 Emo, like Bix, like like the kid whose father gets hauled away by the Empire and then makes the bomb in the finale. Like a lot of these characters are still showing up again in season two, aside from Marva.
Yeah, and we may see them kind of scattered in through the years. We may see them just in that first year, but yeah, the characters are coming back, which I think is, good to tie it in, especially with the pacing of season two.
Yeah, because I know we've seen in the trailer, we saw Brasso, we've seen Bix a bunch. No B2 Emo in the Trimo in the trailer, but like we've been told he's coming. And the son who, like, I forget the character's name, the one who makes the bomb in the finale, like I believe he's popped up in the trailer also. I think at one point he's talking to Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, no, it's very cool that they're doing that. And I'm actually very excited to see it too. I think that not only Cassian's arc, and we've talked about other characters too, but I think it's very important that we continue those arcs with the secondary characters, the supporting characters. It makes the world building better, and it gives you more of a sense of the rebellion than it's just following one dude.
Yeah. Nick, anything else you want to say on this first arc before we move on to the Aldani heist?
no, nothing else on the first arc. Just there's it. This is how Cassian got introduced to the world of the rebellion, and I guess maybe I'm wrong. Correct. This is what, 5 BBY?
Yes, it's all five of you.
When season one of Rebels?
I think it's around the same time.
Is it a little after, or do you think it's the same year?
I think it's the same. I think maybe it's four, but I think it's at the worst five.
So the reason I ask is I think this is the first sign of rebellion that we see
Yeah.
in the timeline. That is.
Not counting whatever Memphis Ness is up to in Solo.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what she's up to.
Yeah. We don't know what she's up to
Well, I
yet.
guess technically the first Son of Rebellion is the deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith, but I'm not counting that.
Or whatever the Bad Batch and Rex had going on.
And it's true. We've kind of seen the rebellion a lot here, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it really picks up steam here.
True. Yeah, this is when the rebellion starts picking up steam rather. And Luthen's recruitment to Cassian is
Very important.
powerful moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the second arc here, the Aldani heist, or Cassian basically, Luthen picks him up and says, "Okay, you're gonna do a job for me. Like, I have a team set to pull off a heist. I need an extra guy here as a pilot. So I want you in the mix here. Like, you have to use a fake name, so he chooses Clem, which is his adopted father's name. And he ends up joining the team of Vel, Cinta, Skeen, Taraman, Nemec, Imperial Defector Lieutenant Gorn. And then we all remember how the heist plays out. There's all sorts of helter-skelter chaos here. But I think the interesting thing is that, like, seeing him form these relations with these people in terms of, like, who are far more invested in the cause than he is, particularly Nemec. So, Nick, what do you think about, like, what we saw Cassian pick up here from his time with the heist crew?
I think this might be the most important arc. I think now the third arc, I think, is the best arc. And I think the third arc, well, which we'll get to, fuels his hatred for the Empire. But I think the second arc fuels his, I don't want to say love for the rebellion, but understanding of the rebellion. That's what it's more about.
He appreciates it more.
He starts to appreciate the cause more. And the third one, he's like, okay, now this is personal.
Yeah.
But here, I mean, just learning from, especially Nemec.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't really learn from Nemec much until after, right? Because of the manifesto, but still during a little bit as well. But just seeing how they work together and, I don't know, plan this heist. I think it's beneficial for his character. I don't really have much to add on it though. I think, like I said, I think this arc just fuels his appreciation for the cause.
Yeah. And I do think the Nemec connection is the most important one here because obviously, like, Vel doesn't really trust him because he sort of shows up here and then one way he admits, like, okay, I'm getting paid to be here. Like, I'm just like here because like Luthen set me up to help you guys. But like, he sees Nemec and Nemec's telling his story about how, like, I'm personally affected by this. And he has his whole thoughts about, like, people should be free to make their own choices. Like, Nemec clearly impacts him and he leaves Cassian his manifesto after he dies. So, like, that sort of tells you like he made a mark on this guy.
Yeah, that's the turning point in Cassian's character arc, to be honest. I mean, like you had just mentioned, he's taking a job. This is just a job, right? He's trying to make money. I don't think he's really into rebellion or anything like that. He just doesn't want to get in the way of the Empire, wants to make as much money as he can, kind of leave. And I think that moment when the manifesto's left after he passes, I think that's the turning point for Cassian. And honestly, this arc is, we go from like an introduction arc to kind of like a confirmation arc where he tries to show what he can do and gain the trust of these people that, Luthen has known for has to be years, and all of a sudden this new person kind of joins the crew. So um you definitely get a lot more of his skills and what he's good at in this arc, as well as that turning point in his character development.
Yeah, and Nick, I do want to touch on the heist itself because this is also a point sort of where like remember the heist is sort of like it gets planned pretty well. We see them practicing it for 2 episodes basically. Then episode 6, when the heist actually happens here, like we see stuff start going wrong at the end where like I think I forget who it was missed an assignment or something like that, and then like there's chaos going on here. A couple of people on the crew die, and then we end up leaving with Nemec, Skeen, and Vel end up getting off the world with Cassian, and they have to go. Cassian insists we have to go to a medical facility because Nemec is hurt. So like that's the first sign we sort of get here, where like past Cassian before he shows up, says, you know what, I'll take my cut. Let's just get out of here as fast as we can. But he's showing, like I want to help this guy because he means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's a big step at the end. This whole ending sequence. I'm imagining this was all the end of that same episode, right?
It was all the end of episode 6.
Yeah, the end of episode 6 was the most important here, where that happens. Nemec passes, he gets the manifesto, and then the other one,
Skeen.
Skeen tries to scheme him.
He's trying to scheme the whole group because like
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, yeah.
because I think at one point I think like Vel goes in with Nemec to the to the medical droid, and Skeen and Cassian are outside, and Pete Skeen basically goes, "Hey, like we're like we did our work, we didn't get enough hazard pay. Like let's just you and me like chop the pot in half and run, and just like leave this mission behind." So he's very clearly just like showing this is sort of where like old Cassidy could have said, sure, like I did my hard work or get a bigger cut for more pay work, but he says, what, that's not right. People deserve their share of the money. So like he ends up killing Skeen to say, okay, and tells Vel, even though Vel doesn't believe him.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, another part that shows the character development, not just the manifesto.
Yeah. Yeah, because he easily could have just cut and run with the money if he wanted
Oh,
to.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, old way Cassian's like, oh yeah, I'll do the money, but I mean, he literally kills the dude to be like, no, we're splitting it. And then of course, he has to then like try to convince everyone that's what was going on. So he's definitely put in a tough position.
It's a hard sell for him too, because at that point, Nemec has died, and Nemec's probably his biggest advocate in the group. Skeen is dead, who they've known longer than Cassian here. And like when Vel sort of sees this, and Cassian says, okay, like I'm leaving. He was trying to scheme, I'm taking my cut and getting out of here. At this point, this is a sort of schism between Cassian and Luthen, because Luthen says, you know what, this guy knows too much. I have to sort of wipe him off the board to make sure I keep my rebellion secret.
Yeah, I mean, once you lose those allies, right, within the group that you were hired to work with, it's kind of difficult for Luthen to trust a guy he just hired and met over a crew member that has been with Luthen for many years. So, it adds that little bit of tension to that relationship, and also adds that, that to me that climax and how no, I mentioned before how Cassian's growing, right? There's going to be these kind of these tensions between characters, but also this what's the wrong word for hurdle that he has to get over to complete whatever a task, a heist, anything like that, and it kind of turns for the worse for him a little bit there.
Yep. And Nick, I do think like the last thing on this point I want to sort of mention here as well is like I think this is something we forget about here is that like for a lot of this of the second half of the season, like Luthen has Vel basically on the hunt for Cassian to kill him here. And like, he gets lucky kind of the fact that he's just locked away in a prison that like they can't find him until like the finale. But like this is something that like is gonna hang over him for a little bit. Like he's got like a bounty on his head essentially.
He does, but like, I mean, I see. I don't know. I don't know. I'm with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's got a lot of people after him because you got him after him. You got Karn still trying to find him from the pre-Mor stuff.
Right.
Like he's got a lot of people looking for him.
He does, and maybe that's why he ends up on a
Yeah,
beach.
yeah. So we'll go ahead here, Pete, and we can go ahead and discuss like the third arc here. So we're gonna go to the situation where Cassian takes his cut, goes back to Ferrex, says covers the planet's on lockdown for the ISB who's trying to track him down. A lot of his friends blame him for the lockdown. He wants to go back and get Marva and says, "Hey, look, I have money. Let's leave and go somewhere warm and safe." And she refuses to leave. Cassian says, "Okay, I'm going to cut and run." He goes to Niamos, which our friend Nick D called Space Miami on the pod when he did the recap of that episode. He gets arrested for jaywalking and is sentenced to 6 years in prison. And then we get into the prison arc, and we get this is probably the most well-known arc from the show. We get this situation with Kimo Loy and Melji in the movie. They're working on this on table five. This and they're basically trying to end up building what is widgets here. Cassian wants to escape, and Kino in particular is like, no, we'll just keep our heads down, serve our time, let's get out of here, and figure that out here. And then we sort of have this turning point here where we see, the old man who is in the group on table five. He basically has a stroke and he dies and he gets euthanized. He much kinder fate for an old man, Nick, than the old man in Squid Game got.
Sorry, I had just had to step away and I just returned and missed what you said.
So
I
how,
heard the old man in Squid Game. That's exciting.
yeah, because like we had the doctor who was on Cassian's table in table on table five in the prison. He ends up dying because he has like the stroke, and the medic comes out and euthanizes the old man, as opposed to the old man in Squid Game was basically conning everybody.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. And then we have rumors confirmed basically that the Empire accidentally sent or released prisoner back to a different floor. They murdered the whole floor to cover it up. So this leads to the infamous prison break episode where Cassie and Kino will read the breakout. Kino's great speech. Cassie and everybody else is running away, and Kino's stuck, forced to stay behind because he can't swim. So prison break arc stuff here, Nick. What do you remember from this one very well?
I remember this was the greatest piece of television I've seen in a long time. Um, especially Star Wars, but the whole idea of the little conspiracy, if you will, where not even conspiracy, but when they figured out the plan here, when they someone was released and then they found out that no, he wasn't released, he was just moved to a different floor, so no one would see that he's still there, and then that kind of just, as I mentioned earlier, that was the part that turned Cassian into more than just understanding the cause. It was, I hate the Empire now.
Yeah, it's true here too. And Pete, very funny situation here where the Empire basically we see the ISB match. We'll talk about this in probably next week's episode when we talk about the Dedra and Karn of it all. We sort of say, oh, use the heist as an excuse to clamp down on rebellions and everything, and sort of like anybody who commits a minor infraction gets thrown in prison where they try and find people behind the heist. And funny enough for them, they have one of the culprits just hiding in their prison under an assumed name. They can't figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the this is the start of the Empire's fall when it comes to just their stupidity. I mean, we talked about it many times, but yeah, you get the insane charges of like jaywalking gets you 6 years. I mean, they're probably desperate for prisoners to try to help them build the Death Star, and then you have all these prisoners that want to get out, and they make a very bad mistake because they can't keep track of a guy who's going to pretty much kill a whole floor. So The Empire strikes again, if you will.
Yeah, I believe you have said in this terms.
The Empire are a bunch of fucking idiots. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, they prove it time and time again. There's no denying it. They're the most uncalculated. They're the most calculated but uncalculated group, villain, whatever, probably the history and like media.
It,
It's just it's so bad it's good sometimes, and sometimes it's just really bad. I mean, it it's mind-boggling that with the writers we have today, they can't figure out how the bad guy can maybe win once in a blue with Star Wars.
well, I mean, George did in episode 5.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean. I think this goes away from the original trilogy, right? I don't think anyone. I mean, granted, we've had discussions about my gripes in the writing, but I don't think anyone's like, oh, they made the Empire look stupid. It's just I think that's kind of happened after the original trilogy.
Yeah, Nick, I also want to talk about his relationship with Kino Loy a little bit because obviously Kino is the leader on the floor there where he's working and sort of like Cassian immediately gets in. It's like, how are we getting out? He's like, we're not getting out. We're gonna bide our time, count our days down, keep our heads down, try and win the competition for your table, and then you'll be out in 6 years. And then we sort of see that he's slowly able to work Kino to the point where he realizes that we can't just sit here. They're gonna kill us. We have to get out of here. Down to the infamous line, there are more than 12, which I think Star Wars used on a social media account when they were starting to promote season 2. So I think that Kino relationship is definitely somebody who had a big impact on casting as well.
I agree. Kino, you can call him Snoke, you can call him whatever you'd like, but I think the two most important people, excuse me, three most important people that we've met thus far, one in each arc. The first arc, I think, is a tie between Luthen and Bix.
Yeah,
The second arc is Nemec. The third arc is Kino.
yeah,
They all teach him something differently, something different rather. And what Kino teaches him inadvertently, but he teaches him to hate the Empire and to be ruthless and do what you need to do to succeed.
yeah. It's a great,
And it's a good lesson, and you see it a lot in Rogue One.
yeah,
The opening scene, he takes what he needs. He's not afraid of really anything throughout their entire mission on Scarif. The entire movie, he is doing what he needs to do. Think about when he was aiming down Galen Erso with the sniper.
yeah,
He didn't want to kill Galen Erso. He had to.
yeah. He was ready to do it.
Yeah, he was ready to do it because he had to. And I think Kino taught him that.
Yeah, like, it's a great point too with Kino Pete because like this is sort of like made like Cassian sort of realize like you can't believe the Empire is looking out for your best interests here, especially like the whole situation with the old man who gets killed and then the whole prison floor gets killed because the Empire is just secretly cycling prisoners back through. So like it's sort of like he's sort of realizing like okay like you can follow the rules all you want and do what they want you to do, but you're still not going to get away with it. And when we sort of like realize, okay, if you want to make change, you actually have to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the non-Empire characters are the ones that make the Empire so scary sometimes. And I think that it was true, right? You cannot believe in the Empire. The Empire is going to lie to you. They're going to do whatever it takes to get what they want and what's in their best interest. And I think they've, made a lot of create a lot of victims and a lot of enemies because of that. And we're getting to that point, right? I mean, this last arc is literally the last straw before, Cassian's eyes are really, really open to it. And I'm sure a lot, right? I mean, the very, very last episode is the eye opener for pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
So it takes some time, and we see, the timing between, episode 3 and episode 4, 5, episode 3 and Rogue One. And even also 4, 5, and 6, for people to like actually get behind the rebellion and understand that the Empire is not great. They're not there for you. They're there for themselves.
Yep, that's true here. Anything else you guys want to add on the prison break arc before we go to the final arc of the season?
I want to add one thing about Kino that's also true about Luthen. They both made specific comments that basically tell you the same thing that taught Cassian something tremendous, which I think is the main point of the whole show.
Yeah,
Luthen says, and he doesn't say this to Cassian, but he does say that he's fighting for something that they'll never see.
yes,
In other words, I'm gonna die doing this. I know it's the right thing, but I'm never gonna see it. Kino does the same, where he's helping the whole escape and then he can't swim, right?
Yeah,
I think that's just teaching Cassian that even though you may not be around to experience the good, if you will,
yeah,
it's worth taking. It's worth sacrificing yourself for the greater good, which is exactly what happens in Rogue One.
yeah. Great lesson.
So yeah, and I think you also get that in the last arc as well, but that's maybe not as much. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's go.
More you do get it, but it's not as direct.
No, this is a very direct sort of like situation
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. So you guys ready for the last arc?
The last arc.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the last arc, the last two episodes of the season, Cassie and Melshi end up heading to the Yamos. They find out that Marva has died. Cassie sneaks back to Ferrex because he wants to attend the funeral covertly, but he is being watched by Vel and Cinta from the heist mission, who Luthen basically sent to kill Cassian, and we see Vel kind of slinking around like Coruscant earlier in the last arc, trying to find out where he is. Basically, has to kill tie the loose end. B2 Emo plays a message from Marva at the funeral that sparks a riot, gives Cassian cover to go free Bix from Imperial custody because in the previous arc that Dedra arrests her for helping harbor Cassian as a fugitive. Cassian ends up meeting with Brasso, B2 Emo, and others who help him bring Bix to safety. At that point, Cassian sort of dips out and pops up on Luthen's ship and basically gives an ultimatum: kill me or let me join the rebellion. You see, the season, I believe, ends on a smile from Luthen, where he says, "All right, this guy's in. We got something good going on now." So, thoughts on the last arc, Pete?
Um, Perfect way to end the season. Definitely gets you ready for season two. Pretty much just supercharges and super starts the season, right? Season two, I mean it's right there. It's literally the beginning of everything that we've seen in the rebellion, in my opinion. I know there's been rebellion stuff that was happening behind the scenes before Cassian Andor, but it almost gives that vibe of this is the beginning of the rebellion, right? And I think it's great. I think, like I said, it kind of gets you ready for season two, and it ends on a very powerful note, which will then hopefully continue to be powerful throughout the next season, and then obviously it continues to be powerful through Rogue One.
Yeah, Nick. I think also the thing that I take away from this art for Cassian specifically is obviously like he's not really involved in the riot because it's really Brasso leads a crew to sort of fight the stormtroopers who are there, to try and maintain order because Dedris allows them to do a public service, a trap to try and lure Cassian back to the planet. But like seeing how he basically goes one man mission inside the ISB set up headquarters to rescue Bix, that sort of gives you some of the sky skills he's learned along the way that will help him be successful for the rebellion over the next 5 years.
Agree. Agreed. This arc it was a little bit, in my opinion, worse than the last arc. I think the third arc was, and the second arc, I think, even were really top notch. And not to say this was bad by any means, but I didn't see as much growth in him here. I saw more of a he's showing it now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like he's applying the lessons he learned.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
what I see in here. And I do like Brasso though.
yeah,
I want to see more Brasso in season two. Do you think we see Tim? Did Tim die?
yeah. Tim gets killed in the first arc
Oh, good, good.
because this is why I gave him LVP points in the premiere because I said like he's like like he's very distrustful of his girlfriend. Like he gets the whole planet locked down, he dies for it.
It's a shame that we know that Cassian doesn't end up with Bix.
Yeah,
Maybe Brasso does.
we don't know. Like this is a very
I don't
interesting.
know. I'm rooting for Brasso and Bix to be together.
You're shipping them.
I am.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to see some of these characters, Pete, that like we don't know the fates of like from Rogue One, seeing like where the show chooses to leave them. Because like I mean, we have a pretty good suspicion that Luthen's gonna die at some point in the season, but like some of these other characters like B2 Emo, Brasso, Bix, like Vel, like you can see where these characters end up.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think that, like I said in the beginning of the episode, I think it's very important that we kept that on, and we're going to continue to keep that those story arcs because If it's just about one person, first of all, I feel like the show can get very stale, which I never felt that way in season one because even the supporting roles I felt like were main roles as well. Um, and number two, just with all the action and everything going on in season two, it would seem that is going to happen. It makes sense to have all these characters come back and complete their story as well as Cassian's.
Yeah. And speaking of Cassie in season two here, obviously we got all we've seen so far is the trailer. We know that each season, each drop is a year in the timeline. We see different looks for him in the trailer. I know like the trailer ends in that shot with him like dressed up for like the looks like a dinner party. He's doing this little smirk at the end. Like,
He's invited to the wedding.
yeah, who knows?
But who knows?
Yeah, could be
Wouldn't make any sense, but you never know.
a Lou thing on an invite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think as the thing I'm keeping an eye on Cassian for season two, in my opinion, is sort of looking at like, okay, like what happens here, like if like, like we know by the time we get to Rogue One, like none of these people besides Mon Mothma are around here. So like does he start drifting away from like the Brassos, the Bixes, the B2 emos to get closer to the rebellion crew? Or like are these guys just kind of off screen somewhere? So that I'm interested to track, see like how his relationships evolve with some of these characters.
Mike,
Yeah,
I don't have any other way to say it. I can't wait.
yeah,
I know I completely ignored your question, but I don't really have a specific answer for you, except I think the season two is going to rock.
yeah.
I think it's going to rock in every way. I love the release schedule. I was a little disappointed when it first came out. I, after going back and doing a little bit of studying for season one, and like watching some videos and trying to rewatch some of the season, I think this is going to be the ultimate Star Wars release, and I cannot wait for it. And I think the Cassian storyline, being that it's going to lead directly into Rogue One, is just going to make me want to watch Rogue One so badly as soon as I finish it. And then every time I watch Rogue One, I want to watch A New Hope so badly as soon as I finish that. So this is just going to lead me right into the Death Star being destroyed.
Yeah. So Pete, any thoughts on the question I brought up here about like some of these characters we meet through Cassian, like what like you think he's gonna kind of drift away from some of them as he gets further along the timeline closer to Rogue One?
I don't think it's going to be a drifting. I think it's going to be he's just doing different missions for the rebellion. I think it's just going to be more so like the hello old friend kind of situation versus drifting off. I think it's going to be he's going to be fully in the rebellion. We'll probably get some new characters. There'll probably be some old characters that he's working with, but I just think it's just going to be so involved in those plans and those missions that it's just they're gonna be there. We're gonna remember them, but I don't think it's like a drift away thing. I think it's gonna be more so they're just part of the rebellion with him, and they're all doing different things.
Yeah, and Nick, I do have a theory on Bix. I know you brought her up in terms of we know Cassie doesn't end up with her. So like my theory with this is sort of like we see that she helps him in some missions. We see like them walk away from the building that they blow up in the trailer. My gut is that's early in the season that like as he gets further into the rebellion, the deeper we go. I think like he kind of pushes her away to sort of like not get her in deeper into the mess that he's in, sort of like try and protect her that way.
I think you're right, but to be fair, we don't know he's not with her.
Well, I mean, he does end up like
99% sure, but we don't know for sure.
yeah, we have a strong suspicion he's not.
Yes. So I guess I suppose it's possible that he's with her, but I think you're right. I think he's going to try to keep her safe, and Brasso as well. But
Yeah,
I think Brasso's not going to end up very safe based on the trailer.
I think Brasso could end up being like the owner of B2 Emo by the end of the series.
If he survives his attack on Lothal, which I'm calling it now, he's on Lothal.
You think he's on the fall? We're gonna find our rebels friends over there.
I don't know if we're going to see them, but like, how do you have that wheat planet that is not Lothal? It looks exactly like Lothal.
Yeah, I don't know. We gotten teased before, and they said, "Oh no, it's actually this planet we never heard of."
Yeah, no, you're right. Could be.
All right, so I think that's it for us. Anything else you guys want to add on Cassian before we set up what we're doing next week?
I want to see when he meets K2SO.
Yeah, you
Can't wait
think
for that to happen.
we actually get there? You think he's already established by the time we start the show?
I don't know. I really do not have. I don't have an opinion on it, and I don't have a prediction on it either. I don't really care one way or the other. I'm not leaning one way or the other, but I'm excited to see K2SO either way.
Pete, that could see this sort of being under the Spider-Man principle of like, we don't need to see Uncle Ben die again. We got told in Rogue One, like, I reprogrammed him and now he's with me. So, like, I think it would be fine if we just showed up and they were already working together in season two.
I think it would be, but I do think there's going to be something. I don't think they're going to just glance over the fact that he has K2SO now. So I think we're going to have some sort of meet, or we're going to have some sort of seeing him reprogram the droid.
Yeah. So you think, I mean, you got he's in the premiere that he runs into K2SO and reprograms him in episode one?
Yeah, like something, or maybe who knows? It might be one of the last years. I mean, does he say how long ago he got K2S? Like, do we know how long ago the droid was found or reprogrammed from
Yeah,
Rogue
and
One?
what happened in a comic or a book, I'm not sure which one. So the whole story's been said already. Just are they going to retcon it and show us again, or are they going to
Yeah, I don't know.
assume it happened?
I think that could happen any time in the season if they don't specifically say it happened X amount of years before Rogue One.
Yeah, apparently, according to this was a comic book situation. This happened, I believe. According to the Wookiee, it looks like it was like right around like when the show starts. So I think it's possible. Like we know that in Tales of the Jedi, they retconned the Ahsoka book and redid an entire sequence to fit their storyline better. So it's possible we could get a re-envisionment of Cassian reprogramming K2SO.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see it not happening. I mean, I can see it both ways. I think it could work either way.
All right, so that's the guy for you this week here. Next week, Nick, we're going all bad guy side here. We're gonna sort of put together our two Imperial affiliated characters here. LVP leader Karn, who is on the board, on the board next week, and Dedra Miro, who is trying to rise the ranks in the ISB. So fun to put those two together next week.
Yeah, very exciting. Weird romance there. Um,
Kind of, kind of romance, sort of like
kind of, yeah, it's strange, but I'm also rooting for them.
yeah. I think it'll be fun to see here, Pete, too, because also like the other thing people forget, like there were points the show was so written that like we were rooting for Dedra to succeed at being more of a fascist.
Yeah, I mean, I always say it. Let's get as dark as possible. It's Star Wars. It's not fun. War is in the name, right? Let's try to get as dark as possible. Let's have these villains become even, stronger or more diabolical. And I think that a strong villain makes for a strong protagonist as well. So I'm all for Dedra being higher up in the classes or anything like that, or the ranks, excuse me.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that next week here. I think you guys are coming on once again. Pete, people want to follow on social media, I can do that.
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY29, AP Tyler 308. Create the background I'm using. Check them out on Reddit.
Yep. Nick, one more time. If you want to follow us on social media, how can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast pretty much everywhere, and at skyguyspod@gmail.com if you want to email in on the pod.
Yep. You can also follow me on social media at mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. Music over on the Just on the Suffering podcast. We're getting ready for the Big East tournament here. March Madness is almost here, Nick. So in this time next week, we'll have brackets.
Is that the only tournament you're getting ready for, the Big East one?
Well, as the most
I
interesting.
know I'm getting ready for all of them.
Yeah, well, in terms of pod angle here, I think the Big East is the most interest to my audience. So
I'm interested in the SEC tournament very much over here.
yeah, there's a lot of good tournaments here, but we will give special attention to the Big East.
But yeah, it's going to be a fun season, fun college basketball end. The MAC tournament should be fun. I think any of the teams could win it because they're all pretty bad this year. Oh, we have a chance. We have a chance. We have a chance.
Yep. We'll be back next week to talk about our Imperials, Dedra and Karn. But until then, may the Force be with you.